Learning that happens outside the classroom can take many forms. When done in tandem with in-class learning, we know it is flipped, blended, or hybrid learning. If there is no physical classroom, we call it online, remote, or distance learning. Teaching fully or partially outside a traditional in-person classroom feels different. But with intentional instructional design, you can amplify creative opportunities and alleviate challenges students face. Adobe has been learning from the best practices of educators to understand the design principles that help them and their students be successful in different scenarios. We've distilled them down to the following principles. We've seen success with smaller, simpler steps and examples for students to build up small wins that build to complex skills and thinking. Timing looks different when students are learning asynchronously, so giving students the freedom to work at their own pace while keeping a commitment to hitting shared milestones respects their individual circumstances. Providing extra resources like links, supplementary materials, and tutorials supports students when they need immediate help. And online forums, video conferencing, and other interactive technologies keep students connected through activities like Think, Pair, Share. Let's hear from educators who have adapted curricula to keep creativity at the forefront of distance learning.
To keep students creative during distance learning, I've found video tutorials to be a godsend. They also really help me to go through the process myself so I can think about any sticking points that my students might hit. It's made me focus way more on simple yet effective project frameworks for my students, which conversely has made my projects way more creative.
Creativity and collaboration aren't restricted to four walls, so you can still continue those through distance learning. For example, you can use cloud tools to work on projects synchronously and asynchronously. You can also communicate via web tools through mobile devices as well.
When I think about how creativity can work with distance learning, I actually wonder, how could you do distance learning without being creative? Because we're constantly coming up with new and innovative approaches to using this new technology, which asks us to rethink what discussion, debate, or collaboration looks like in this new normal. Students have often more independent or unstructured time with distance learning, which can be really well suited to the kinds of creative projects or activities that really thrive with that level of flexibility, or which can be challenging in a traditional, tightly structured or whole class school day. But this also means giving students more resources. They often need more videos or multimedia so that they can do more independent learning of the content or the tools. With those more flexible times, students often need more or different modalities of feedback to ensure that they're reaching those goals through independent or more self-structured learning.
Rather than approaching distance learning like a normal in-person class, think about ways to make it more focused on an end product. Provide more structure and use that increased level of structure to place more trust in your learners to create something of their own, on their own.
So my number one piece of advice for any educator out there that's worried or sees that distance learning is a daunting task is to connect with others, grow your personal learning network, professional learning network, whichever way you want to say it. Connect with others through social media. There's so much you can gain. You can share ideas, you can bounce ideas off one another, and there's so many resources out there that others are willing to share freely.
The number one piece of advice I'd give to an educator feeling overwhelmed with distance learning is remember what your first week of full-time teaching felt like. Because I do. I remember a lot of crying, a lot of wondering how in the world I can keep the attention of 30 middle school students, and everything else that just made teaching feel completely impossible. But it got better, for me, by embracing my colleagues and community, by asking for help early and often, by stealing the best ideas from my colleagues who seem to have figured it out over the years. And in the process, I developed a lot of empathy with my students, because one way or another, we were all struggling with learning new things. And when they were frustrated with, say, an arcane grammatical rule, I could say, hey, I get it. I'm frustrated figuring out how to power up this arcane smartboard. Let's just go through this one step at a time and be patient and be kind with one another.